The college football playoff rankings. Nerdy and boring, and typically it doesn't really matter. It does now. Right now, actually it matters. People would say, well, what does it mean and why do they matter? And usually it's the case that this time of year, the first time this ranking is released by the College Football Playoff Committee, which I'll describe to you, typically it doesn't really matter. But it does this time, oddly enough, and for weird reasons. It does matter now. The first rankings that just came out mean a lot for Texas. A lot. And not in a good way. The ranking also, and I think this is going to be an argument going forward that you can pick any number of sides. But I don't think this is the last time this comes up. And I don't think I'm the only person that's going to notice this. So the first rankings mean a lot for Texas. The ranking means a lot because of Michigan. Okay, it means a lot because of Michigan. And the ranking as of now, just so you know, and I think it's important that we point out sort of the bigger number here, but the ranking now it goes Ohio State. The reason for that is this committee, of which I'll describe in a second. This committee on first run puts a lot of emphasis on schedule. So Ohio State has a couple good wins. So it goes Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Texas, Alabama's 8, Oklahoma 9, Ole Miss is 10. By the way, Kansas State is 23. Undefeated Air Force, just for conversation, at 8-0, is number 25. Have you thought about this? Of the top 10 that I just read out, 9 are either going to be in the Big Ten next year or the SEC. 9 of the 10. 11 of the current 12, because next year is a 12-team playoff. 11 of the current 12 are either going to be Big Ten or SEC programs. Florida State, strangely enough, Florida State's the only one that is not going to be a Big Ten or SEC program in the top 12. And I think it's entirely possible Florida State ends up in the SEC before long. So I think a pretty decent case within 2 years, all 12 of them are going to be in either the Big Ten or the SEC. Okay, just a quirky sidebar. The College Football Playoff Committee, it's a group of 13 people, most of whom are athletic directors at different schools, including, this is important now, the AD from Michigan. That is important to remember. Maybe really important to remember down the stretch. It's a bunch of dorks. It's a bunch of nerdy dorks. The Texas angle here, though. So Texas sitting at 7. Whether you agree or disagree with that, let me just tell you the implications of why that matters now. Here's what Texas needs to get in the Final Four. Next year's a 12-team playoff, different world altogether. But as of now, for Texas to get in, I think it's a stretch. You would say, well, 7, but they all play each other ahead of them. Yeah, it's not. No, the numbers aren't working out well for Texas. Virtually the exact same thing, everything I'm about to say also applies to Oklahoma. If you look at it this way, I brought it up yesterday, and that is whether or not the Big 12 will get left out altogether of the Final Four, and you're going to see why that's likely the case. Both Texas and Oklahoma could be on the outside looking in for the exact same reasons. First reason, it's bad for Texas, bad for the Big 12. The only way they got a chance to get in is to win out, and win out convincingly. Every single week, blow people out. For Texas, Oklahoma's got a little bit tougher schedule, although the Big 12 is not very good. But for Texas, they're going to have to blow people out because there's nobody left on their schedule outside of Kansas State, who's in this poll, what did I say, 23 or 4? Nobody's any good left on the schedule. And this committee has already made it known that strength of schedule is a big deal. A really big deal, actually. If you're going to put Ohio State number 1 and argue, and they have argued, that we did it because of their competition. So that's working against Texas. So they're not only going to have to beat people throughout, they're going to have to get style points, and style points equates to just blowing people out. It's a stupid system. It's a really, really stupid system. But that's what it is right now, and style points matter, and the only style points Texas can get because of lack of strength of schedule is to just blow people out the rest of the way. That's point number one. Number two, Alabama needs to win out. Alabama fixing themselves, having a quarterback that doesn't quite suck as badly as when Texas beat them in Tuscaloosa. Alabama winning out helps Texas. The Texas win over Alabama looks better every week the goofy college football playoff committee gets together, as long as Alabama wins. And they might get beat soon, and that hurts Texas. That helps. 3, Florida State has to lose. I don't know there's any other way to configure this where Oklahoma or Texas could get into the Final Four without having Florida State lose. And I think the reason there is the ACC gets shut out if Florida State loses anywhere along the way. They don't have the street cred that the Big Ten, I would say the Pac-12, and the SEC would have. They're a little bit like the Big 12, and that is if you don't go undefeated, you're out. For Texas or Oklahoma to get in, Florida State has to lose. It's a must-have. Number 4, the Big Ten needs, this is weird, it needs, for Texas and Oklahoma, they need the Big Ten game. The only game that really matters. They need Ohio State to blow out Michigan. That sounds stupid. I know. I'm just telling you what Texas and Oklahoma need. And I would argue they would need Ohio State to blow Michigan out. Won't happen, I don't think. Why that would help is that 2 things. As of right now, Michigan's schedule, I think, is 111. They don't play anybody. There's another part to Michigan we have to talk about, but the football part is they don't play anybody. And so if you wanted Michigan to drop and to drop quickly, you can hang the lack of schedule over their head, and then if they were to get blown out by Ohio State, Texas and Oklahoma could hope. All these other things have to happen too. But Texas and Oklahoma could hope that Michigan would drop lower than them. Or you would hope that Oregon would lose. Same kind of thing, same storyline. I don't think that's going to happen either. But Michigan loss, it's got to be a really bad loss against Ohio State. Their schedule's a joke. They've got a scandal hanging over their head that every single day becomes more of a Coen Brothers movie. But, Texas and Oklahoma have to hope that one really bad-looking loss, one dumpster fire of a scandal, and they would fall out of the top 4. That's about it. And some of that stuff can happen. Washington can lose. I don't think Florida State loses. I don't think Michigan's playing. I don't think the stuff happens the Big 12's way. But that's it. If you're scoreboard watching, I'm pretty sure those 4 things have to happen. All of them. All 4 of them have to happen. Now, here's something that is, can it help the Big 12? Not right now, they say it's not, but appreciate this. It's going to get a lot more play in the coming days. It's going to get a lot more play just because it is laughable. It really is. This spying scandal at Michigan, when I called it a Coen Brothers movie, it really is materializing as a good Coen Brothers movie. So it's possible. In fact, no, I'm going to say it's probable. Watch the noise. Watch the piling on. Watch how this thing starts to generate even more attention. And it's possible schools like Oklahoma and Texas and Oregon start to make noise about the Michigan spying scandal. You're going to think I'm crazy. But they would be the ones to make it, to pile on. Oh, there's other people piling on now. Trust me. But they want the scandal to blow up. They want it to blow up because they want this committee to care. They want this committee of dorks, one of whom is a Michigan AD. They want this committee of dorks to start to feel guilty, to start to think that Michigan is guilty. If there was ever a time and a place for Oregon, Texas, and Oklahoma to get their own private eyes, although it's not that difficult, they would need to start pushing this scandal. And the scandal, of course, involves everyone's favorite new porn name, Connor Stallions. What a piece of work this guy is. But I'm telling you, for Oklahoma, Texas, and Oregon, you need this thing to blow up. You need it to blow up in Jim Harbaugh's face. You need Connor Stallions to do all kinds of crazy stuff. Because this committee of dorks, oddly enough, has already stated publicly, and we can argue this, because I think it's a pretty interesting ethical dilemma. So the College Football Playoff Committee, by the way, which I don't think should exist, the college football playoff should be 16 teams. It should be conference champions. It should be wild card teams selected, and it should be just like the NFL, like everything else in college football. But it's not. It's not. You got a committee of 13 dorks. The committee of 13 dorks, one of whom is the Michigan AD, has already publicly said the scandal doesn't matter. The Connor Stallions porn name scandal doesn't matter at all. And there are arguments to be made either way. But if you're everybody on the outside looking in, you want to, because these are people deciding this. And you want to push the narrative that Michigan is trash, the porn guy is worse trash, and Harbaugh knew all about it, to the point that this committee starts to feel like, you know what, we got to downgrade them. We can't let this go, right? The committee comes out today. They have a director, another athletic director of, I think it's of NC State or something. And so they came out today, and he said we can't let it matter. That's not our business, which I think is pretty interesting. So the committee has already publicly stated, one, they're going to ignore the Michigan spying scandal for now. But I think you could generate enough noise, enough pictures of the porn guy Connor Stallions, and they're coming out now. It's getting more bizarre by the day. I wonder if you can have a full-on public relations, full-court press that starts to influence that committee. Next thing you know, they think Connor Stallions is the devil. They downgrade Michigan entirely. Just wondering. But they've said what matters to them as it relates to Michigan. One, what doesn't matter to them, they've said publicly, is the scandal, the spying scandal, of which there's a new level that is even more comical. Okay? Strength of schedule, working against Michigan. Okay, remember, you're Texas, you're Oklahoma, you're Oregon. You need Michigan to be completely blown out of the water. Michigan's strength of schedule is 111. That, of course, makes the spying even more outrageous. You don't play anybody to cheat. How idiotic to cheat, to spy on a schedule that's 111. Right? That's unbelievable. It is. Number two, the committee will ignore the scandal, they say, for now, even though it's piling up. And Michigan ultimately could end up forfeiting all these games. And I think that's an important thing to consider here. That the punishment ultimately would be, as long as you have the porn guy on the sidelines cheating, going Navy SEAL on people, they get busted, sounds like they are, then they're going to end up forfeiting the games. You got to plant that seed with the committee. Number three, the Michigan athletic director is on the committee, so you know there's going to be pushback. It's just wild. But think of that. Do you think that is a possible, that has an effect on this committee? I think it might. I think a lot of people are now going to start debating whether or not you should have a Final Four team where you've got video out now of the porn guy, the Navy SEAL guy, James Bond guy, dressed up in the other team's colors on their sideline. So let's talk about the porn star guy. He's not really a porn star. Just has the name. Connor Stallions. I wonder if that's made up. You know what? Do we know that for a fact that his name really is Connor Stallions? Can that possibly be someone's name? Get this. So here you go today on the, and I don't, just going black helicopter on you. You think someone's not pushing this narrative, they got to bust Michigan? Because just today, the day the committee comes out with the rankings, the day the committee comes out and says, hey, look, what Michigan has been doing doesn't matter to us, we happen to see Connor Stalions spying on Central Michigan. That's dumb. That's dumb. That's unbelievably dumb. We got video of the great Connor Stalions on the Central Michigan sideline in Central Michigan gear, allegedly. So apparently they've been spying, allegedly, on everyone, which is remarkable. It is remarkably dumb, and I wonder if it's going to stick to them. You know, here we go through this process of trying to Final Four. Does it start to eat away at the credibility of Michigan to the point that this committee of dorks decides to downgrade them? If you're a Texas, if you're an Oklahoma fan, if you're an Oregon fan, you're going to push this narrative. You are. Don't be shocked to hear the head coaches and ADs start talking about how Connor Stalions and Michigan are the devil. I think they're going to push it. But think about how dumb, if true. It's hard to believe it's not true because we're now seeing pictures of the great Connor Stalions on sidelines. How he got there, I don't know. But remember, the taxpayers have trained this dude. They break the rules against Central Michigan. They have a cream puff schedule that's 111. They have one game on their schedule at the end of the year. And they play nobody not named Ohio State. That's like shoplifting a six-pack of beer if you have $3,000 in your account. It's cheating. It's cheating, allegedly. It's cheating for the sake of cheating. It's over the top stupid. Now, I assume they're going to throw the porn name under the bus. But here's the argument now. Start to think about this. Is it fair to say Michigan, this is what the committee on day one, the committee of dorks on day one has decided to do. Is it fair to say Michigan deserves to be considered innocent right now? Is it? If you're in, some airport Hilton and you're meeting with 12 other people to decide this, and somebody says, what are we going to do about Michigan? Somebody says, hand me a bagel. If I saw a video of the dude today, if they're busted, they're going to end up forfeiting the game. So think about this. Is it fair to say, to take the position today and all the way through the end of the season, no matter what comes out, no matter what pictures of Connor Stalions we have, no matter how many drones or whatever the heck the guy's been doing trained on our nickel, is it fair to take the position that it's not our decision to punish Michigan for this? Is that the righteous position to take no matter what you learn? Because that's where they are right now. Okay? Because it matters a lot to Texas, Oregon, Alabama, Oklahoma. They're going to argue that's our spot. Give us that spot. Because they're going to end up, once they get busted, here's what they're going to say. Once they get busted, they're going to end up forfeiting those games anyway. Right? So they're going to say, I think you could say rightly so, Texas, Oregon, Alabama, Oklahoma are all going to say that should be our spot. That's not fair. Look at him. We got the guy. We got Connor Stalions wearing the other team's colors on the sideline, which apparently is what's coming out today. He's just hanging around some other team's sidelines. Why they let him down there, I don't know. But remember, taxpayers, we trained him. But Texas says, you guys got to punish them. This isn't okay because that's our spot. And is it fair to say that they're going to miss out on a Final Four this year? They may never see it again. Right? So I think that argument, on top of all the other stuff about this committee, for the first time ever, it's kind of interesting because you got this giant, the elephant in the room is this cheating scandal, this spying scandal. And whether or not it is righteous to sort of compile the evidence yourself and punish Michigan along the way. That's what a bunch of schools are going to want. The other side would be no matter what we see or hear, it's not our job to punish them right now, even if it screws over Texas, Oregon, Alabama. Because even if and when busted, they'll end up forfeiting these games. The other schools are going to argue, you see, had you let us in, had you downgraded them, we could have had that spot. That would have been the right thing to do. How about that? And yes, apparently you have to sneak in against Central Michigan to beat Central Michigan. I don't even know what the score of the game was. It was a blowout. Unbelievable. All right, phone number is 512-834-1027 on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. It's at Jeff Ward Show.